A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn, every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea, reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. I think I have just enough time for another quick review. So this review is of Helaine Hanf's Apple of My Eye. I did read this for Epistolary January. And actually there was a focus on Helaine Hanf. As I recall, they were reading together 84 Charing Cross Road, which is the first one for books that I read, which is also the first one that she wrote. These are memoirs, and they are wrote either in letter format, which is what Charing Cross Road is, or in like diary type format, which also was acceptable for the Epistolary January. And so that is why I went with Apple of My Eye. I really enjoyed both 84 Charing Cross Road and The Duchess of Bloomsbury, which was the second book. And in The Duchess of Bloomsbury, she mentioned that she wanted to write a book about New York because she mentioned that she had a British friend who mentioned while they were in England, or the British friend mentioned to her while she was in England that when they, the British friend and her husband were in New York, they never left their hotel because they were just too afraid. They got too overwhelmed. So she's like, man, I need to write a book or something to make people know hey, New York's actually pretty cool. So I did, as I've been showing lately, I did start the journal entry. I've been really trying to, when I finish a book, at least to start the journal entry. I'm not quite finished with it. I still need to write a little bit about the book and put a star rating on it. But that is that. I didn't end up putting the cover from this particular book on here because I didn't like the cover as much. I preferred some of the other covers, like this one here and that one there, and also this one as well. So all of those come from covers from different editions of this book. I happen to have these New York stamps that I used. So yeah, as usual, I enjoy Helaine Hanf's style of writing. I actually did something I didn't do for her other books as much. I highlighted in this one a bit because she would share fun tidbits about New York. And I have been to New York only once, and it's unlikely that I'll ever go again with my medical issues. But I went before I realized, before I got sick to the point that I am now. I didn't know I was sick at that point. My grandparents took me as part of a graduation from college gift, but it was, several years after because I was busy getting settled into my nursing career. But finally they're like, no, we need to take you now because we don't know when, if we'll get to the point that we won't be able to go and take you. Well, we didn't know that I would be the one who wouldn't be able to go before they would be. But anyway, I've only been to New York once, and a little bit of it is there are aspects I just don't remember very well because it's all a bit of a blur for certain parts because we saw so much. But at the same time, there's definitely things we didn't get a chance to hit. Now, I did get to see, Newsies performed, so that was amazing. But yeah, we got to see a lot. It was really cool, but I didn't get to see necessarily all the particular sites because that's just what we weren't able to fit them in. But what I enjoyed about this was it talked about some of the sites that I missed. Now, this is an older book. This is 1970. 1977 was the first copyright. And the addendum that she added was probably what the 1988 copyright is. But besides the fact that it covered landmarks that I missed, it also Helene Huff has a background in, knowing I think she said she taught history or she wrote things about history. She said one of the two. She mentions it in the book. But she really already was well aware of the history of New York. So when she was going and sightseeing, because the idea behind the book is that she and her friend are going around New York because she's supposed to write the details for a tourist guide of New York. And they realized that even though they lived in New York, they hadn't been to a lot of the tourist spots, which is fairly common. I live in a tourist area and I haven't been to the tourist spots. I think we went to a couple of them when we first moved here. But really, I have maybe gone a couple times to some of the other tourist spots, but like when we had, guests who would come to the area for the very first time. But otherwise, it's so common to, when you live in a tourist area, just not to visit the sites that everyone goes to see. So I guess because you always think, oh, I'll get to it later. You just don't. But she and her friend realized they hadn't hit like any of the main spots that people would come to see. And so they made, I think it was over a period of several months. It was like a summer or something where they went and they visited all the sites of New York. From, at that point, the two towers were still there. Then, I think it was the two towers that she said that they went up. The World Trade Center. So she talked about visiting there. They talked about just all the different sites. But what I particularly enjoyed and what I ended up tabbing was she would share history about things like the cloisters, which I knew nothing about. I'd heard the name the cloisters, but I didn't realize that basically it was a grab bag of different torn apart cloisters all over Europe as a way to share older cultures, that part of culture with those who wouldn't be able to travel to Europe. And it was the brainchild of Rockefeller. And it was quite a lot of the sites were somehow linked to one of those big families like Rockefeller. And Rockefeller came up multiple times in this. The other thing, that I found interesting, talking about things like, they're about how people's attitude when the World Trade Center went up, that it was most New Yorkers at the time apparently really were upset about it going up because it was expensive to put up, and just the area that took up, people just weren't happy about it. And that was another Rockefeller project. But after that, people apparently really kind of grew proud of that site. Then talked about, I thought it was interesting, Wall Street apparently got its name from a wall Peter Stuyvesant built to keep out pirates. It never did keep out pirates. It was torn down a couple of centuries ago, but there is a plaque on the building at number 1 Wall Street marking the spot where the wall began, which I thought was pretty cool. Another thing about Rockefeller, being behind the creation of Lincoln Center and wanting to make the arts available to the masses. What else? Talks about the story behind why the Bronx is called the Bronx. So I was surprised about how many random fun facts were in here, and I really enjoyed. I kind of enjoyed it more than I did the Duchess of Bloomsbury, even, which, I would have thought I would have enjoyed her book of being in England more. But I actually this might be my favorite of her books, which kind of surprises me, because I kind of thought that I would enjoy more some of her ones that were more related to, the original topic of her her writing back and forth, her communication back and forth with the bookshop, I thought that which is the basis of, the first book, and also, the foundation upon which the second book was built, because that was her visiting the people that she had gotten to know through these letters. So this one is completely its own separate thing, but I really enjoyed reading this, and I really enjoyed learning different things about New York and its history that I wasn't aware of. Now, don't expect a history book in this. Like, it really is a memoir of their, and a, daily tracking of their visits to the different landmarks of New York. So it has a lot of personal things in here as well as different things about the sites. You feel like you're going on this tour with them, because you kind of are. So don't expect like an out and out history of New York. But that being said, sorry to keep an eye on time. That being said, I did learn things from this book, and I was really happy that I read that and have a little bit more knowledge about some things that I didn't know before about New York. And I probably will read this again. I really enjoyed my time reading this. So once again, this was for Epistolary January. Apple My Eye by Helene Hanff. I don't know if I'll read anything else for Epistolary January right now. I have other books I want to read, so that will probably not happen unless Hospital Sketches by Louise May Alcott, unless that happens to be written in a way that would make it fit in to Epistolary January as well as into Exploring the Public Domain. That might be the only other book that I slide in to Epistolary January. But at this point, I'm not planning anything else for that. So yeah, if you've not already read any of Helene Hanff's works, I would recommend it. I do recommend reading it in order: Charing Cross Road, 84 Charing Cross Road, then The Duchess of Bloomsbury, then this one here, The Apple of My Eye. But I feel like you can read The Apple of My Eye first and not really. This can be read, whereas the other two definitely need to be read, Charing Cross Road, then Duchess of Bloomsbury. This one can be read, because it is a standalone, really. It can be read first without having read the other two. I feel like I just liked having the background of the others, even though it really doesn't affect you that much when reading this. So, long story short, if you're going to read Helene Hanff's works, I would personally recommend reading them in order, but if you want to start right away with Apple of My Eye, that would work well too, because it is a standalone. All right, that's it from me. I hope that you have a blessed day. If you have read Helene Hanff's works, I look forward to hearing maybe what you have to say about her stuff in the comments. If you've ever read Apple My Eye or any of her other works, I'd love to hear about it. Anyway, have a very blessed day. I will see you the next time. God bless. Bye.
Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.